Thank you, Chairman Rokita, and thanks to all the witnesses who are here today. Thank you very much for being here. Chief Flannelly, you've referenced alternatives to incarceration your department is involved in to help at-risk and committed youth. Can you discuss the importance of service options to ensure a child is placed in the best program to prevent him or her from being a repeat offender?
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, one of the processes that we have in place in Tippecanoe County, and this was the pilot that started in 2009, is that when a young person would be arrested, whether it be for a status offense or any offense, they were brought into an intake facility. And we had specially trained personnel in that intake facility that would run them through some questionnaires. I believe we can provide copies of what those questionnaires look like. And so you get an understanding of what's the core issue with the individual that you're dealing with right now. Because a lot of times what we see out on the street in law enforcement are really just the symptoms of much larger problems. And so by being able to identify what some of those core issues are, we can direct them into the appropriate services at a much faster rate. The sooner we get them into the right services, the better outcomes that we get. And the numbers have really just been astounding over the last few years.
Thank you very much. Ms. Williams, in order to ensure that taxpayer funds are well spent, it's important to measure accurately the effectiveness of programs. Are there particular challenges associated with measuring the effectiveness of juvenile justice programs?
Thank you, Representative Foxx. There's always challenges in being able to evaluate the effectiveness of programs. To do a true evaluation is actually a very expensive process. But because you need to have control groups to actually do the comparison, to be able to attribute change to a particular intervention. What we do in Colorado is we are very strict about making sure that they are collecting data. Short of being able to do a true scientifically based evaluation, then we are able to collect data. We really take a look at it on a quarterly basis to make sure that they're serving the numbers of kids and that we're beginning to see the outcomes. The other thing that we do is that when there are particular programs that show promise, we will use our federal funds that that Congress allocates to us in Title II to conduct more in-depth evaluations that we would otherwise not be able to do. So I think it is incredibly valuable to be able to fund programs, and they have to be, and we will only fund programs where there's some evidence to suggest that they work. And we've been able to, and they can show us studies that say this is based on sound science, and then we can determine whether or not they're beginning to see such results, and then determine if we want to invest in an even further, more scientifically based evaluation.
I'm very happy to hear that. Several of you have talked about evidence-based and best practices, and that's encouraging to know. That you are using the evaluations that you have to do that. Mr. Reed, you talked about the services you provide in your community. Is it possible that a young person can learn about these services on their own, or is it always when they come into the system in some way before they are connected with a service?
Great question. Actually, we have found that being proactive and very active in the community is critical to ensure that the kids know about our programs prior to any involvement with the justice system. I believe a community partnership strategy is very important so that the word spreads and that we can get to our kids and young people much sooner than after they begin to commit their criminal offense. So I think that it is possible, but it's really incumbent on the organizations and community providers to have a continuum and a strategy to get the word out. That is sometimes looked at as maybe an indirect type of resource, but I think it is very critical to put resources into the education of young people. We spend a lot of time in school and talking with young people at school about our services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank the gentlelady.